Hello everyone, Comet Bay here, and I'm here doing another Fallout 4 armor rigging tutorial, because last time I did the tutorial, I wasn't very prepared, I improvised a lot, and I also got my video copyright striked, so it was banned in some countries. So some people, like one of my friends, could not watch the video or rewatch the video and figure out how to do all this rigging stuff. And unfortunately, it was because of Druid, or I think it's Druid Sandstorm, which I thought it was kind of hilarious since that song is just the biggest meme right now in terms of songs. So I kind of thought that was hilarious that that song that played in that video was the only song out of all the copyrighted songs that actually got uh, some countries banned or something like that. Or it was banned in some countries, my bad. So I thought that was kind of funny. So I'm going to try and redo this one with non-copyright music. It's generic, but I do apologize. I can't do this kind of stuff without music. It's really hard for me to do, and especially doing a video on it, it's even more painful because I'm having to explain everything and try and work all at once. So hopefully you guys can pull through with me here. I'm going to load up my... There we go. Okay. It's also pretty early in the morning, so I'm still a little tired. So I'm gonna try and go through this whole process and get this working. All right, so I've already set up a scene, and these are the Day of Infamy um, German models, or a German model. And I've got all the helmets and all the gear that comes with it, and hats and all that stuff. Some of them are, I guess, missing their textures or using their own textures. I don't know where to find them yet. Um, so I'm still looking for that one, but I'm not going to import all of these in one day or in one sitting at least. Um, so I think just to start people off, I'll do some basic stuff. I won't do any of the gear just yet. I'll just do the main uniform, maybe a helmet or a hat or something like that, just to get people started off. I will also be trying to doing a female version in the same setting as well. So now, with this model, I'm not particularly fond. It has some flaws to it, unfortunately, that I'll have to fix out, like the broken wrist here, uh, and kind of fit the model to I think the term I'm looking for is the topology of the original Fallout 4 mesh. So, um, we'll get that all figured out, and I'll go through the process, and you guys can follow along, and kind of just, if you don't know how to do this kind of stuff, you can just figure it out through this video. So I won't try to delay any further. So the first thing is trying to explain all this stuff. We're going to use the BAE tool, Fallout 4 BA2 extractor, and you're going to just go and open the file meshes.ba2 in your Fallout 4 directory in the data folder. You should get something like this. It'll start off something like this, and you're just going to go down into the meshes, actors, character assets, and kind of just highlight anything that says male hands, male body, uh, anything hands, head, arms. Make sure it's also a NIF file, so don't get any unnecessary like tree or OBJ files or anything like that. Try to refrain from anything that says old or anything that confuses you, like face bones and stuff like that. You don't want any of that. You want some of the stuff that's simple and it's got NIF on it. So like I extracted a bunch of models like the ghoul face or the ghoul heads, the ghoul bodies, male, female, all that fun stuff. And I extracted it, and then after you've selected all that, and also you want to make sure you click here so you get no boxes, and then you start selecting. So you don't extract all the meshes and stuff like that, and you have to sort through all of it. And I also put the models in an easy to access area, which is in where my BAE tool is at. I need to find where that's at. There. So it would go whatever you're going to put it at, and I just extracted it into that folder. so I know where to find it, and I can just import the meshes and the bones and all that stuff into 3ds Max without any issues. So in that process, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go to my import, and also make sure you have the NifTools plugins for Fallout for the latest ones. I think is I don't know the version, but you should be able to find it. It's on I think it's going to be on their either their website or the Nexus or something like that. But you'll be able to find them. They're easy to find. You can just Google them up and download them for 3ds Max, and they should be in for the latest versions like 2016 and stuff like that. So first things first, I'm going to import the male body, and I'm going to do this in a different method than the one I have been doing earlier, because I have a full body version one, which has all the hands, the body, the heads, and the back head portion all assembled. So for the sake of the tutorial and for new people who don't have that kind of setup, I'll be setting it up the same way other people would if they extracted all the NIF files from the game. So we'll start off with the male body. So already we got oh, hold on one second. It's a good thing I saved ahead of time. So just from looking at this, we can already tell we need to rescale it, turn it around, and stuff like that. Also, another thing, I'm not gonna rig the this time around. I'm not gonna rig the hands like last time. It's just a little bit too much for a tutorial, and I want to make this as short and condensed as possible, so you don't have to spend 2 hours trying to figure out this one thing. Now I should import the head meshes so I can get a better idea of that the collar area, because I'm going to be doing some major tweaks to the body. To me, it's the Day of Infamy models are a little weird, um, but not a big deal, I don't think. I don't think they were meant to be exported or anything like that. Much like any other game asset, I don't think they were meant to be exported and analyzed. So, but even so, it doesn't matter. I can still tweak it. It's not terrible, but it's just a little weird. So let's see. A little bit weird. Hoping I don't create extra bones. That'll be a problem. Okay. Now we don't need the rear head as much as it would be nice to have it. We don't really need it for this process, because all we're really gonna need is just the weights on the head part, and then we'll paint our own weights on it. We'll give full weight over the head, so we don't need to worry about the neck part. Maybe the chin straps might need some of the chin, but it's a good thing we have the front face part, so it won't be too bad. Alright, so now that we have our mesh completed, we have an idea of what we kind of need to do here. with our model. So it looks like the back is a little bit weird here. The front part's a little too skinny for this body, and I kind of just match my meshes to this body for the best fit in the game and stuff like that, and kind of just as a reference to the anatomy of the bodies and stuff like that. So I'll go ahead and make my tweaks appropriately. First off, I gotta get some of these patches onto the or attached onto the model. So when I use my vertex smooth selection and move around, it'll move with those too. Because those are going to be a little tricky if I start moving them now. Also got to decide what patch I want to use, or if I even want to use a patch. You know, I won't bother with a patch just yet. I certainly want the eagle here. Also, an important thing, you probably want to select everything and unlink if you've linked anything. That'll become problematic in the future. So you want to make sure that when you link something, you link it, make your changes, and then unlink it before you get into the vertex editing part of the of your model, because then you're gonna forget this one part. We'll be doing a X-form reset, and that'll really mess up all the linked models. It'll reset the rotation and the scaling and stuff like that, and we really don't want that. And you especially don't want to try and undo that Control Z when you apply your X-form, because that'll mess up your uniform and all the rotation and positioning, or the not the vertex information, but just mainly the rotation and scaling. It'll really mess it up, and you'll have to kind of redo the scaling again. So try to refrain from using link too much. And if you do link, make sure you unlink all your meshes so they don't get messed up that way. Just I've run into that issue multiple times. I keep forgetting it, and it just makes my life a nightmare. All right, I might have to find that back part of the head. Okay. I just want to have that rear part of the head so I can make sure I'm not pulling or pushing too far in the back of the neck there. Kind of forgot that part. That could become pretty problematic in the game. There we go. Okay. Alright. So let's worry about this patch thing we got. I don't think I could find the patch for this one, so I'm just going to hide it for now. I probably didn't look for it very well, but not worried too much about it. You know what? I won't be doing a side patch just to keep it simple. Hide things that I won't be using. Now I just need to decide which. I think I'll just go for a helmet just to be simple. I think this one right here is all set up. It's got this side kind of like badges on it, so I'll use that one instead. I mean, I could put it on either one of these helmets, but I'm just gonna go with the black helmet there. Okay, so I'm gonna link this part to it. There we go. Then I'll just position it, center it to the head. And I'm gonna just change its pivot point so I can easily rotate it or position it as I need. I'm a little worried about the scaling of the helmet, but it actually looks to be of a realistic scale, I think. And it just needs the chin straps need to be adjusted, but I'm kind of thinking the hair might clip through the helmet. I'm not 100% sure on that one though. I can always just remove that setting, but what I'm kind of afraid of though is I don't know if it's going to show any, if you look up here, and if you have no hair in the Cresian kit, you might look bald or something like that, so I always kind of worry about that with hats, but I don't think it's really that big of a deal, so I won't worry about it. I'll also do the glasses too, since they're just there. Kind of didn't even notice them there for like a split second, and then I kind of just noticed them as I was tweaking the straps. I don't know how I could have missed those, considering I just got these glasses sticking out of this guy's eyes. Yeah, just leave it alone. There we go. Now we got some snazzy glasses too, just to go with the pack. Alright, so I'm going to unlink this. And just attach it to the model just for simplicity. We'll be needing that. I actually will do the gear here. So I'll do these Car 98 type clip holders. Or ammunition pouches, whichever. Yeah, that looks... I'll leave the backpack out. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and unhide the body again. And then start working on the chest here. I forgot. I should link or attach these all to one mesh. There we go. Nothing's linked now. Nothing should be linked. And we have just singular meshes. We don't have anything in here. We can probably remove these later on after the tweaking, but you want to try to make sure that if you're gonna move the vertices, use soft selection and stuff like that, that you want some of these objects to be in the same mesh, so they all the vertices are shared, and that the changes will be made to the pouches and gear and all that too. So you probably want to do this with a lot of the gear, patches and stuff like that when you put them all together. But I'm not going to do that right now because this is I'm just for the sake of simplicity and doing things quickly. I'm not going to do that. So all right, it's going to be a little bit difficult as I look around here. I got to get that belt area to pop out a bit more. I kind of got to move the pelvis of the mesh over a little bit over, center it, I guess, with the body. Got to make the thighs a bit thicker. The calf area looks just fine. Feet look pretty good. So those won't be too big of a deal. Might have to separate the legs here too because the shirt extends out a little bit further than I would want or the legs kind of sink in a little bit too far out, so I might separate the legs and then just do the vertex or soft selection, move them up a bit, then relink them or reattach. Okay, well let me focus on this part first. Alright, I think that looks pretty good for the body so far. Now we'll have to work on the arms, and a bit more on the shoulders and the neck area, level this out. Do that real quick. Oh, whoops, forgot about these. I won't worry about them. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. So now it is time. We're gonna start posing our base mesh here, or the Fallout base mesh, that is, to align the arms up to the hands and stuff like that, so we can fit the hands to the arms, and then we can start tweaking what we need to tweak. And then after that, we'll then get into the skin wrapping, and then we'll get back to getting it back into this original rig state here. And I think for this method, I'm not going to do the animated one because I think it's a little bit too tedious to work with. So instead, I'm just going to position it, and then when I'm ready to get it back to the original mesh, I'm going to then put the original skeleton over it, just the skeleton, not the meshes or anything like that. And it should pop it back into its original pose. So first things first, got to relink everything back to one mesh, except for the helmet and glasses, because those will be their own little piece. And then we'll start grabbing the bone. I recommend, if you're gonna start posing these, moving them around and stuff like that, you want to make sure you set your rotation tool to local. And this will align your gizmo to the rotation pivot point, so you can have a little bit better of control over the bone and stuff like that. All right, I think that's good. And there we go. Now we can start moving our arms and stuff like that. Also, you want to be very careful when you're using soft selection for models such like this, because the arms are a little bit close to the body, so depending on your fall off, you could really you can start touching on some of these mesh or these vertices, and you can start messing some stuff up. So you want to be very careful when you're doing that. And I have it on a low setting, but if you increase the fall off just a smidgen more, whoops, you'll start touching on these. You'll get more reach on the arm, but it's really harder. It's a lot harder. Um, and if you start moving it, you'll start messing some stuff up. So very careful when you use soft selection for uh, close vertices like these. Remove these vertices a bit, but not too concerned. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Might change the bicep here a bit. Alright, I think that looks pretty decent. Some areas might need some improvement. Um, Broke my little spinner. I'm gonna restart my 3ds Max real quick. That was not supposed to happen. But while I wait, I can go over some of the other important stuff once you start getting that stuff in, is your textures. So I got here some of the original formatting or VTF formats from the Day of Infamy game, and so my 3ds Max is up, so I'll start load it up. Just still kind of loading. But anyways, we'll need to turn these into a .dds format, or yeah, DDS format in the DXT1, I think compression or something like that. The DDS thingamabobber, whatever it is. It has to be in that format for Fallout 4 to read it and use it in the game. Otherwise, it won't work. I don't think it'll load up if it's not the right DDS format or whatever. Um, but anyways, I'll go over making both if your model doesn't have normals or specular maps, I'll go over on how to make them. They won't be super great, but they're better than nothing. So we'll continue with the model and we'll get to that just in a minute. So still need to do some work here. Gotta reload my UI. There we go. Good. All right. Our model is now ready to go. Let me check the back real quick. The back, we can probably move it back a little bit. So let me do that real quick. I'm not too mad about that. That looks pretty alright. I don't want to fit the model. You really don't want to fit the your base mesh too well to the original Fallout 4 mesh. Yeah, you kind of just want to keep it almost kind of like in its original looks, but if you need to make tweaks like I did, go ahead and make them. Need to weld vertices real quick. Okay, still got a few more issues. Alright, then we got in all those little rogue vertices. Apparently the mesh was, I think for the gore in Dave Infamy, they had a body group the arms and legs, so some of the vertices just needed to be welded together to the base mesh. Or, I mean, yeah, welded to the chest. That's what I was looking for. Alright, so now it's time do some smoothing groups and stuff like that if you need to. If you got sharp edges and whatnot. I got a few sharp edges, so I just needed to do that. I got one there still. Canister is no longer sharp, so I think that'll be good. I'm going to actually just set them to 1. And that'll remove all of it. That'll be good. Alright. Now we can get into the skin wrapping. But before we do that, we want to make sure the changes we've made to our model stay that way. So we're going to go to our modifier list. And we're gonna do 2 things. We're gonna use UV unwrap, then collapse that onto the mesh. Actually, 3 things. We're gonna be doing 3 things. We're gonna be doing the UV wrap, unwrap, collide that or collapse to the mesh. Then we're gonna do the X-ray or not X-ray, blah, the reset X form. Then collapse that onto the mesh, and then we're going to change it from edible mesh to poly. I think edible poly works better when you export, so I've tried it. It seems to work. Don't have any issues with it, so it should be fine. I think I hear it's recommended that you export in edible poly, but I've exported in edible mesh too, and it works. Sometimes it might not work very well. I don't know. And you're going to basically just do this to all the meshes that you have. So we'll be doing it to the helmet and to the glasses. Alright, now that that is done, we can now start doing, now skinning our mesh. Now you can do it 2 of either ways. You can apply a skin modifier and do all of the skinning by hand, or if you're like me and kind of lazy and just want to see if your model will work, or you just want to, rig a character real quick, you can use the skin wrap. Now, skin wrap doesn't always work too well, so you'll have to tweak this setting. You'll have some weights that kind of get a little weird, especially when it comes to when you have arms that are really close to the chest areas and some of that. You'll start to notice some issues, but I'll show you how to use skin wrap and how to tweak the settings to meet your needs. So we're gonna go to the modifier list and select skin wrap. Or yeah, skin wrap. Now we have our skin wrap parameter, and we can add our mesh. You can add as many meshes as you wish to this parameter. It'll add more weights um, to the thing. So not only so we have 4 objects selected, so that means we're going to be using the skin from all 4 of these objects into this one model. So we're not going to miss anything. So that if our sleeve was a little bit closer to the hand, which it is, if the hand moves, the sleeve will kind of move with it too. So uh, something that you can remove it by setting this the weights on it and stuff like that. But it shouldn't impact much, or it shouldn't really look weird. But you can always edit the skin wrap. So after that, you're going to generate the skin, and then you're gonna just remove the skin wrap that's hidden, because we won't need it. Actually, my bad. Went a little ahead of myself. I forgot I was gonna edit these settings a bit. So if you need to, you can start up your auto key. And so now what we're going to do is just select the bones and move the time frame to 10. We're going to move it up and move the arms into T-pose. And so it's a good thing that I caught myself on that and I didn't continue, because now we have some really noticeable issues. And this is one of the problems or the downsides to using the skin wrap. You can tweak the settings to change the fall off and stuff like that. And the distance I think it might be inflammation or something like that. I don't know. Or influence. I think it's distance influence. Then face limit. These 3 settings are going to be the main settings that you'll be using. You can change the deformation engine. I usually just stick with vertex deformation, but you can use, I think there's face and there's face deformation. So there's only 2. I don't know how well the face one works. It doesn't seem it works very well. Yeah, not very effective as I thought it would be. So Vertex is probably going to be the best. You get more options with it, so that's good. So what we could do now is we can leave it as this. This would be for the best for the arms, or we can apply it to 30, and, well, okay, we'll probably just stick with 0. I think 0 is going to be the least to worry, because not only do we have some issues with the arms, but we've also got issues with the chest, and no doubt the legs are going to have issues too, so we'll check those in a minute. So I'm going to set that to 0, and I'm just going to fix everything all by hand. Let me check the legs real quick. So we got a lot of issues we got to fix. We got to fix the gear right here, and that'll be pretty easy. It doesn't take a lot to do that kind of stuff, because I just paint. I guess it would be painting. I paint all of the gear weights to just one single bone. They don't blend to any other bones, so that's easy to fix. We'll need to tweak the arms a bit. The legs seem to be pretty nice. I'm liking the looks of how the legs are kind of deforming the way they are, or by the knees and stuff like that, so I don't have to do much on that. It's just mainly the gear here and the arms that are just the main issue. So we'll go ahead and fix that. So when we're done, convert to skin, remove that, don't need it, and now we can start working on our envelopes. So when you go to your skin, make sure you press your edit envelopes and stuff like that, and select the vertices check mark. So now, if you've never done any rigging like this might seem a little weird. You got a bunch of these little lines everywhere and stuff like that, and when you click on these lines, you got different colors. If I can click on any of them, there you go. There's one. So we got blue and reds and yellows and stuff like that. Not a lot of reds. There's a lot of blending, but a lot of oranges. So what this just means is that red is value 1, which is the highest value for a weight on a bone. So that means that that bone has the full control over that over those vertices. And blue, or nothing at all, is or no color or anything like that, is basically just the value 0. And so that means that the bone that you have selected has no control over any of those vertices. It cannot deform them or anything like that. So any other color other than that is a value in between 1 and 0, or 0 and 1. So, with that, you can kind of get an idea of how much a bone has an influence on that vertice. So, these little straps here are going to be a little tricky, because those are going to move with the chest and all that stuff, and they're not going to be like the gear or anything like that, and just be kind of weird. But another thing you probably want to try is selecting the arm, then selecting these vertices, and setting them to 0. And hopefully, the bones down here have an influence on these. And if you remove the influence from up here, up on the arm bones and stuff like that, eventually it'll start to go down. But it's not showing any signs of going down, so I'm gonna have to edit them and get them to go down. So first of all, I'm gonna work on the gear because that's gonna be the easiest. And then I'll work on the arms a bit, fix them, tweak them, and get them to not look like crap. Alright, so first off, we'll go ahead and start with the ammo pouches here. And the ammo pouches are going to be controlled by this bone up here. And they're going to have full influence over them, so no other bone's going to have any influence over it. There we go. Problem solved. Now, however, for these bones, or not bones, for these objects down here, they're a little bit lower than this spine bone. So these are going to probably be for the pelvis, or spine 1. It's kind of like the pelvis bone, but they'll be assigned to this spine bone, and they're going to have full influence as well. And there we go. Some of them might be a little weird, so you might have to tweak some of the things, like the bag here. You might want to tweak that. It has some influence over this part of the belt of the bag and stuff like that. But overall, that shouldn't be really too bad, and it should just the character will be standing or crouching, and when he crouches, this will be still attached, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. We'll go into the game and we'll see the damage. So now all that's left to do for the gear is to fix this strap here. So I'm gonna, oh, whoa, okay, that was weird. I'm gonna go ahead and deselect my element checkmark thing. Also forgot, if you're gonna deal with elements and stuff like that, which most models usually should, like gear and stuff like that, you should select that, and you can select the entire element. So I'm thinking here, this is gonna have some of the most influence. So I'm gonna set this to 1. Those little bones to 1. Then we'll set some of the influence for these bones here, or set the influence for some of these vertices. Also, when you're doing that, make sure you don't grab any of that stuff. We'll give them about half influence. And we'll kind of do the same for this one up here too. Give it maybe not quite as much as half, but we'll give it 32. 0.32 should be decent. Okay. And we'll just put that one at 42. That shouldn't be too bad. Alright. So now we can start working on the arms now, because now we got some weird stuff going on with the armpits here and the bicep. So we'll fix those. Fix those real quick. And I think that's pretty good for that side. Now we'll have to fix the other side. I think instead of just doing that manually, we can go ahead and mirror the other side here real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and so if you've never used the mirror parameters here before, this will probably as well look pretty accurate to what you might have. These little dots, there's 3 different types of dots. There's blue, green, and red. Green's for the left side, if you're facing front, but if you're facing back, it's going to be right side. The blue side is going to be the right side of the vertices, depending on your axis as well, or the mirror plane. Mine's set to X, so it's going to split it right in half. You've got Y and Z. So also, if you got this little orange square facing in a different direction or something like that, that might be it. You might want to change your mirror plane. Uh, so um, with this, this will allow us to mirror vertices onto another side, or at least they'll try to, depending on if the mesh is asymmetrical or symmetrical. But ours is pretty symmetrical, so it should work. The red line, or the red dots, I think what it goes is that there's positive, negative, and then there's these red ones, which they mesh, or the parameters haven't been able to kind of assign them where or what side they're on, so they're kind of just unreachable vertices, so they won't paint over. So we just need to adjust some of the settings and fix all that, so all the vertices should be either red or green, depending on the side. So we'll increase our mirror threshold until these lines, which are our bones, turn green or blue, and the vertices as well. Don't worry about anything that's in the middle. Those aren't really too big of a deal. Those probably won't be able to be assigned to anything since they are at the center, so they won't be able to mirror properly over or anything like that, but that shouldn't be too bad. That shouldn't be too big of a deal. We mainly just want the arms to mirror over. So I'm not going to use any of these parameters over here. Instead, I'm going to use the selection mirroring method here. So I'm going to select the right side here, just the upper arm, and then I'm going to press mirror paste. And of course we get this weird issue for some reason now. I don't know why. But at least the arm is fixed. So we can easily fix this since it's part of the ammo pouch, so no need to worry. Fixed it before and fix it again. And there we go. That should do it. I don't want to worry about this part of the area too much. I don't think it'll be really noticeable all that much. Might fix the butt here though. That we can't leave alone. That's it's not gonna go. It's not gonna fly. Alright, I think that's gonna be alright for now. Not too worried about it. Okay, now our model is ready to go. We can delete our frames. And now we can finally re-import our skeleton. So we fix the posing and stuff like that, or fix the to make it the original pose that Fallout 4's got. We won't need to worry about the helmet or glasses because we didn't have to edit them or anything like that in terms of positions, so those will be fine. We won't need to do anything for those. Um, so let's go ahead and import our skeleton. Oh wait, before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and save just in case it doesn't work. And there we go. Make sure I don't have any duplications. Not seeing any duplicate bones, so that's a good sign. So now we have our mesh working. In the original pose, we don't see any unnoticeable or any major issues. If we just hide our body, everything looks good. Our model looks great. It's exactly what we were looking for. And now we can get into the exporting process. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll save this. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and skin the glasses and the helmet real quick. Okay. So now we got that all set up. We can go ahead and start exporting. So make sure you hide all the parts you don't want to export, which is the hands and the head. And so now we're only left with 3 objects. Now, don't worry about having if you're going to export each model separately, don't worry about that. We're going to export it all in one. So we're going to have the glasses, the helmet, and the uniform. Now, also another important thing is to make sure that you have a folder or somewhere that you can easily access. I usually put most of my work in my export folder for 3ds Max, and I'm going to put it in a World War II pack folder and all of that stuff, and I'm going to give it a new folder name and stuff like that. All right. Oh, whoops. That's SMD. My bad. So you're going to go, when you go to export, you're going to go to the kf or .nif, and we'll go ahead and give it an appropriate name. Oh, almost forgot. It's going to go over the female body version as well, so we'll go ahead and work on that one too. Oh, oops, those are... I made duplicates. It's a good thing I saved. I don't think I'll need to make too many large changes. And since we'll have 2 versions, we'll go ahead and make copies, or a copy. that one. Make sure we realign this. And so this one is not our copy. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this one or put it in a new layer. I'm going to put it in a new layer just to then hide that. Then I can put this one in another layer. Okay. Now you can generally do whatever you want with this in this part. I'm gonna kind of just do the same thing I did with the male version and just kind of just contour to the body a bit, but not too much. There we go. So a good thing is we won't have to change much the helmet or anything like that. It looks like the helmet fits fine. Glasses look like they all fit fine. So just the uniform thing. So that's good. I don't know if I can do short sleeves. It requires because what I'd need to do is have a rolled up sleeve model. I mean, technically you could make it short sleeve if you kind of just scrunched the sleeves up a bit more. But I think the best thing to do would get a rolled up shirt model or something like that from I think like Dave Infamy, or not Dave Infamy. I mean Iron Front has a model where they have a rolled up sleeve and they kind of have it textured and some of that. It's hard to explain, but if you could do it either ways. You can use another mesh model in a different game or something like that that has a rolled up sleeve that you might use, and you can just select all these vertices and cut them out. Um, but uh, but you could always just in a way of rolling it up, you can always kind of select the vertices and just pull it all the way up to however length you'd like. But I don't like doing that too much to make short sleeves, but that's how you could do it. All right, I think that looks all right for a female version. It's not perfect, but it could use some tweaking. Um, and you can tweak it for ever as long as you like. Uh, of course, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Uh, Oh, whoops. Alright. I think that's as good as I'm gonna get it. Okay. So now I'm going to export both at the same time. Alright. Okay, now that I got two versions, I'm gonna go ahead and save that. I can now start working on getting it to work into Fallout 4. So I'm gonna go ahead and find where it's at. Delete that one. Okay. Just check here. Oh. Alright. Okay. Alright. Now to get back on track. Okay, so if you don't already have, you should go ahead and grab the the NIF scope setting or not setting. Oh my god, the program, the NIF scope program, and have it extracted somewhere. I gotta go find where I extracted mine. There it is. You're gonna need NIF scope to edit some of the stuff and get it working in Fallout 4 and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up two NIF scopes or two windows. One's going to be for a model that's going to be inside the game already, like the I think like the already extracted content that we already extracted, like the body and the head or whatever. Any of those objects will do, as long as they have all the bones in them and some of that. Not gonna worry about that one though too much because I've already got a couple of examples I've got that'll open up. This one will do. That looks good. Alright, so this one is going to be our original, and this is going to be our new model that we are going to put into the game. So I'm going to import that. And we should have a couple of... We'll have a ton of these depending on what textures they are and whatnot. So we're going to have to figure out which one's which, but luckily they're named after them, so this one's our female versions of the body, and this is our male version of the body. Also, we have our helmets and our glasses. So everything seems to be working everything looks good, everything looks like it exported correctly. We don't have any issues or anything like that, so that's good. Also, if we want to, we can make a first-person model versions of our the models. Simply just kind of do the same process we've been doing. I haven't found a way to do dismemberment just yet, but I will look into the original stuff. I think it has to do with, and I'll show you in a moment. Those. Okay, so that's the female one. Okay, so this one is our female, and this one's our male, so name this one. And then this one will be female FP. Okay, so all we need to do, we'll hide our other versions as well, and our helmet and glasses. Don't need those for first person. So now all we need to do is, and I'm gonna just work on. Okay, so that's the only one I have up. Good. So I think the whole thing with the first person models is that we're only gonna need the arms, so we're not gonna need the chest or any of the gear or anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and select the element selection in the editable poly, and just select whatever is the closest to my shirt model or whatever. And then we'll just go into our vertices and just delete the vertices we don't need. And separate it completely from the mesh. Or from the chest, I mean. Doesn't have to be too perfect, so don't sweat it if it's not perfect or anything like that. Alright. Then we're going to just delete what we don't want. And there we go. Now we have what we wanted. Originally, or not originally, but usually, if you don't make these, the Fallout will kind of just use the third-person arms to make the first-person arms. And we don't want to do that because when the character crouches, the rest of the body will clip through the camera and will cause some visual issues where you can't see or anything like that because you have the chest model in the way of the camera. So we don't want any of that. So that's why we're making the first person arms for that purpose. We need to do the female version too. Nah, I won't worry about that part. Doesn't have to be clean. And then we'll export. There we go. Simple, easy to do. So first things first, we're gonna just work on the body and stuff like that first. If you want, you can remove the gear as its own thing, since we have that ability. I don't know what I'm doing. Changing the background color, apparently. Okay. So now, what we're gonna do is, so here we have our original model, and what we need to do is rename our knee node to that name, so we can start pasting stuff over to that. Make sure you copy the name exactly. I've worked with this setting multiple times before, so this should work. So first we're going to do the male model first, and then we'll do the female model, and then we'll do the helmets and the glasses. There we go. Keep doing that. Alright, so first things first, we need to open up these little tabs down here. So we can see all of our lighting shader properties and all that stuff, and we're just going to delete them, or you can, we're going to go to block and then remove brand. Or you can do the shortcut and just press Control and then delete, and that'll separate it. So we're gonna copy this, or Control C, and then come over here, bring this down. Make sure you're clicked on, or you're selecting the knee node, 0 new node here, and then pasting the branch here, or Control V. Now we have our model transferred over to this. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the new models and then apply them over here, and then we're going to use this the original file, edit some things here and there, and then we're going to save it as our own file. So if that makes any sense. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense with that, but it's just basically you're just porting over your content to an already in-game item so it can work in the engine and stuff like that. Alright, so now we have that model in. I'm going to go ahead and port the other items. Okay, so now we got our 4 objects here. We can start renaming them to more appropriate names that we need them to. So we'll select our index tri-shape, click on the TXT button here on the name, and we'll just name it, Uniform 1. Oh, whoops. There we go. You name whatever you want. You don't have to be specific on the names. You can just name it whatever you want. This just helps make sure that you're keeping track of your the meshes and stuff like that. So you can select what you need to select and edit what you need to edit that's broken, or whatever. Alright, now that we got that done, we now need to go over into our original mesh here and take the BS lighting shader property, the material data and all that stuff, copy it, and then reapply it into our list here. So we have 4 of these new objects that need this material, so we'll make 3 more. There we go. Alright, so now we need to go back to our new models and scroll down until we get to the BS property spot here. and we'll have two BS properties. We won't touch the bottom one, but we will go to the none here on the top one, and then we're going to go over here to the shader property we want to apply this model to. So we'll use this one, and its name number is 110. So we'll put 110, and it'll apply under the tab here of our model. So now it has now it's going to be able to read a material or a BGSM file, which is what we'll also set that up to once we get the textures all situated. So we're going to do this for the other other three objects. And there we go. All of our objects should have the shader now. And so now the next step to do is to now format our models or our meshes similar to the, or exactly, I mean, to the Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 formats. So in a tutorial that I had used to figure this method out, it points out that there's 4 things you need to fix. And in the original mesh for Fallout 4, you can also find this information out too. Unknown short 0 or unknown short 1 is a 0 value, and VF5 is also a 0 value. Then there's also the segments section down here. num-A and num-B are values 4. And you'll have 4 segments once you click the refresh button. And those will also have some other information in it as well, such as a unknown hash in all 4 of these, but there will be an extended number, number 5 here. Unfortunately, we can't you can't copy it and paste it. For some reason, in the unknown hash, it can only support up to a certain amount of digits for some reason. So you can't have that 5 at the end. So the second best thing in the tutorial it says is to do everything except leaving out the 5. So you'll do that for all 4 of these segments as it shows in the originals. And we also, at the bottom segment, we have the triangle count. And to find the triangle count, which yields the files we have will be 0, and I'll go over all of this to get it working. You'll find the triangles in num triangles 2 above the num A and num B. So that's just a rundown of what we're going to do. I'll go ahead and do this now. Make sure you try not to scroll down when you're selecting the numbers and stuff like that. They will go up and down in value, and you definitely don't want to mess with the number of triangles. That'll mess up your model. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing over here. And I'll get to the values up ahead, but I usually try to take care of this thing before I get down to any of the others. Alright, now that is all done, we got that all set up, we can now start setting up our BGSM files and some of that. So you can use the BAE extractor, the BA2 extractor, and extract some of the materials. And I think they'll be in here in materials BA2. But I do have already pre-made materials, so I won't need to do that. Just need to go into my materials. You can make a folder if you want for yourself. I've already made one, and I've named it appropriately. World War II. I'm going to make a new folder. And you can make another folder if you want. I'm going to just get everything all organized. Okay. Then we go back. Just copy any BGSM file that I got. Paste. Oh, whoops. This one will be great because there's multiple camouflages and different colors for uniforms for Day of Infamy, so I'll just make the gray one. And you want to make sure you have a BGSM file for any and every unique texture that's applied to your model. So I'm going to go ahead and head over here. So I've got my German clothes, gear, I'll have glasses, paint, our head, our helmet. What else is there? Patches, I've got patches here. I think I only have one though. I have the patch hair badge. Then I'll go over to ranks. And I don't think I have any ranks. I'm kind of trying to think what else I have. I think that's all I got. So I think only 3 materials is all I need. 4 at least. 4. We'll just make 4 just in case. I'll call it just helmet 1. Alright, we'll go ahead and start setting up our materials. So here we have our eagle patch. And we're going to go ahead, copy our directory only up to material. Just remember that. That's an important part. If you want your materials to work, you never copy anything beyond materials in your other folders beyond that. So then we're going to put our eagle patch BGSM. Press OK. Now we've set our material to that model. And we'll just have to do the same thing for all of these. Should copy it. There we go. And then I can rename it. All right, okay. So we got what we need, or we got everything all situated. Set this gear, that one should be eagle patch, and that should be body. All right. So now we got all that done. We don't need this uniform anymore. We can just remove it. Got everything all situated. Okay, now before we start saving it as a .nif, we'll need to do just a quick things. I think they're kind of like formality type things just to make sure that it doesn't break or anything like that. So we'll head over to our NEI node 0 and come over here to children and hit, I think it's arrays, and then let me check real quick. It's arrays and collapse. That's it. Okay. Arrays and collapse. I don't know what that does. In the tutorial, it says to do it all with NEI nodes. I don't usually do that, so I only do it to this one, and then I kind of just hope it works. Alright, so the next thing is, I probably also forgot to mention as well, in the tutorial it says to turn off auto-sanitize before save. I don't think it really impacts much of anything, to be honest, so I don't think it's a big deal. In the tutorial, it tells us to then go to sanitize and then reorder blocks. And there we go. That's nothing happens really. I don't know what it really does. I don't think it does anything because I kind of skip this process when I save sometimes, but I just do it time to time just to make sure everything works. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and save our file, and we need to make sure we save it into the data meshes armor or whatever you're gonna call it, whatever folder. It doesn't have to be called armor. I just called it. I just put it in the armor. Put Common Bear World War II, and then I'm gonna name the folder DOI. Then I'm gonna add a Axis folder. And so this is our male model, so I'm going to call this one hair. Oh, whoops. Just uniform M. Yeah, M for male, of course. And then we'll do the same thing for the female, but for F. So I'm going to go ahead, and so now that we have this situated, we can also now go back to our folder here, or our file here, and kind of just do the same process back over here, since this is now a file we can see, and just to make sure. Also, you could, oh wait, hold on. I don't think I opened up a folder. Okay, now it is. If you have the Cresium kit installed, you should be able to preview any .NIF files. So if it's in your Fallout 4 directory, in your data directory, you should be able to double click on this and it'll load up. If you get this issue, just try reloading it until it does show up. This does happen quite often for me in some of my models. There we go. Ooh, yikes. Okay, this isn't too bad. Alright. I've forgotten. I know why this has happened. It's because of the material. I didn't change the material, and it's on strap. So, the strap material has an alpha, so it's clear in some areas on the texture. So this is easy fix. Okay. So now, once we got that set up, we can start working on our textures, and then I'll work on some of the female stuff later. I'll get that situated in a little bit. I think I'm gonna get the textures working right now. So we got our badge eagle, normal. If you don't know what these normal or specular or diffuse are all about, diffuse is just the main texture, the main color texture and stuff like that for meshes and stuff like that. Normal maps are quite normal and specular are two special texture maps that are very important for shaders, especially for like Fallout 4 and stuff like that. Specular usually controls the glossiness or the shininess of a model or a texture. Normal maps are, however, different from the from like specular or anything else other than that. They're I think they're also referred to as bump maps as well. I'm not sure the difference between them, but basically, what it does, what a normal map will do, is it's probably clear. Whoops, I have to redo that one. So normal maps kind of generate this texture effect where it kind of like pops out. It acts like it adds more detail, uh, where it doesn't actually add detail to the model. Um, so it makes it look a lot more detailed than what it actually is. So it gives it the normal map can give it this look of being kind of not grainy, but kind of like it's got. It's really hard. It's got texture, all right. Like it's actually got texture to it. So it's an important part of shaders and stuff like that in game engines and stuff like that. So it's important to have all three. And I can show you if you have the tools for it. You'll need two tools, of course, for GIMP. I use only GIMP. So if you're using Photoshop, you might have to try and figure something out. But if you're using GIMP, good for you. So what we're going to do, and I'll show you how to do this kind of stuff. You're going to need two things. You're going to need a DDS plugin for GIMP. Should be able to Google it. You'll find the first page you find should have a download to it in their archives or something like that. The second thing you'll need is where is it? Normal Map. It's a Normal Map plugin. I don't recommend getting Insane Bump or Insane Normals. That plugin's a little weird. I'm not a big fan of it. It's really weird with its normal maps, so I don't try to touch it. They make specular maps too, and a bunch of other maps. I don't like them, so I like to make my own specular maps and stuff like that, and I'll show you how to do that. So if your model doesn't have specular or normal, these tools and the little thing I will show you to make specular maps can help you out pretty in these kind of situations. So the first thing we're going to do is I like to desaturate to remove any color, so there's no, it doesn't, none of the color can affect the normal map or anything like that, or have any effect into that kind of stuff. I don't think it makes a big difference, but I just make sure that I desaturate it and stuff like that, so it doesn't cause any issues. So with the normal map plugin, we'll get a little menu when we bring it up from the filters. It'll be located in your map. I think the preferred settings that I think Fallout does, and just looking at some of the normal maps, is to invert both. I think you invert Y and X, and I don't think wrap really does much of anything, but you can also change, and I also change it to Sobel 3x3, and it seems to give a nice effect. You can also I think there's also another thing. Oh, okay, yeah, those are the only things I do. I know there's another thing. I think it was conversion. I think it was not normalized. Color space, yeah. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff. Sobel 3x3 and invert Y and X should be good. If you do get the effect doesn't work like how you'd want it to in game, if I'm wrong, you're not supposed to invert X and Y. You can always go back and do this again. So I'm gonna go ahead. I like this normal map better, I think. Let me check real quick. Actually, that one looks a lot nicer than this one. And I might be wrong on the invert X and Y. That's just me. And so now for the specular, we're going to desaturate. Oh boy. Desaturate. Go to levels and drag the dark slider part to as dark as you can, but there's still a little bit of shine that you can see here and stuff like that. And you mainly do this with metal parts and stuff like that, because usually metal parts in the texture are usually the shiniest. So you'll usually kind of just see this. Usually you'll see the metal part parts of the specular, and that's kind of just what you want. That's the kind of effect you want. In this case, it's an eagle patch. It shouldn't really have shine, but you can still make a specular map if you want to. I usually do. I probably should have saved that. And I think I'm not a huge expert on the whole specular map thing, but how it works is usually the darkest areas of your texture of a specular map are the ones that don't exhibit any kind of like shine or anything like that. The lightest parts are what's going to have all the shine, and that's what the most engines use, is that white part that gives it the shine. I think that's how it works. I'm not really into the texture. I don't know a whole lot about it. I could be wrong. I've seen different types of specular maps for different kinds of engines, and they all look different. There's AO maps and stuff like that. I don't know how those work very well. I hardly know a lot. There is a ton of texture maps for different things. I only know the main three, which is the diffuse, normal, and specular. Okay, so now that we is that the, okay, that's my specular. So you can name your texture whatever you want. I'm going to just leave them as closely to the original as possible. Oh, wait. I think I forgot something. I'm going a little bit ahead of myself. Just to make sure. I'm going to resave this again. Okay, so I was right. The compression should be BC1 or DXT1. Shouldn't do minimap or mipmaps. I don't know. I leave mipmaps off. I don't think you need mipmaps. You could. I don't think it really affects anything. It might be something to do with the LOED, but I don't know. But you want to make sure always have it as BC1/DXT1 and save it that. Okay, so now we can start working on the getting the rest of these textures done, and then start editing our BGSM file. So we don't need that anymore. Okay, so now we can work on the BGSM part of our tutorial. So you'll need to go and download the material editor for Fallout 4. It should be on the Nexus or something like that. But it's just the BGSM material editor. So when we open it up, it should be one single program. When we open it up, we should get little 3 sections like this: general, material, and effect. We should get file. We're going to go ahead and open up our copied BGSM files. Whoops, new. You could make a new BGSM file if you wanted to. I just don't know the settings for them, so it's best that you use the already pre-made BGSMs from Fallout 4. So we'll go Eagle Patch, Materials, and so here's where a lot of the specular settings, if you want to change specular color, specular enabled, so you can always turn off specular if you don't want to use shine or anything like that. I'm going to, you can use the the rain wet maps or whatever like that, so when it rains it'll make it even more glossy or whatever. I think that's what it's for, at least. That's what it looks like it would be for. Anyways, these are the three main slots: diffuse, normal, and smooth specular texture, which is going to be the 3 slots we're going to be using. So we're going to click on that little dot there. We're going to head over to our textures folder. And just assign them to their appropriate spot. There we go. When we're done, save. Then I'm going to open it up again. I'm going to try and make it back to where my BGSMs are at. Okay, we'll do body. Next, okay. Go back. German clothes. No, I think EXP. Oh no, okay, never mind. That's the exponent. That's what EXP is. Also, if you guys don't know, I don't know what exponent really does. That's also another mystery to me. It's definitely not the specular, that's for sure. So we're going to save that. And so we already have a pre-made normal map. And then I'll open up that German clothes specular, because apparently this one does not come with a specular. There we go. I think that'll be good. All right. Already 2 hours in. Still got a lot of work to do. Okay. Okay. Gonna export the normal. You also want to try and avoid as much alpha as you can in the normals. At least for me. For some reason, I always feel like they cause issues for the engine, so or for the shaders, I mean. And so, since I don't have the helmet in, and I probably won't do the helmet, I'll just do the female body, the male body, female body, the the FP rigs, and that'll be it. And then I'll test it in the game. Or I'll get it in the Creation kit, basic stuff, and then I'll test in the game. So I won't worry about the helmet just for now. I'll kind of touch over the helmet a bit on how to set that up. It shouldn't be too hard. Let's see here. I want to test the model to see what I got. That just keeps breaking. There we go. And that looks alright. Our eagle patch is kind of broken a bit, which is concerning. Usually that's not a very good sign. Might have to go back and do the unwrap, but I'm not worried about it too much. I just hoping this will load in the game just fine. We won't have any issues. Looks like I might. Another thing I kind of run into with this kind of thing is that even though it loads up into the CK and it looks fine and everything like that, it still might present issues inside the actual game itself. It's really weird. You'll notice you'll have like maybe a few parts of your body, of your character or something, or your uniform is, parts will be visible. Maybe a part might not be visible, or the entire thing isn't visible. There's numerous things that could be causing this issue, and I haven't found the definitive ones. I kind of just try new things. I try to go back into 3ds Max and try to figure it out. For the most part, usually when you do an unwrap, UV unwrap, that fixes your UV maps for your mesh. So it fixes the texture issues like we were just having a minute ago. Or for the eagle patch, I don't know why it's not doing that. I think it might not have unwrapped right or something like that. I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. As for the X form, that'll fix your character's body getting really or the uniform being deformed, or not deformed, but kind of jacked up or something like that. For some reason, when you export, the .NIF doesn't like scaling or rotation kind of thing, so it acts really weird. It's bizarre, but that's what the X form is. The reset X form is about. And sometimes you might have to do it again even after rigging. So you'll have to copy the mesh and then do that whole process again so that it stays in this kind of pose. Then do the skin wrapping all over again and stuff like that. But you'll have a copy of your original, so you can skin wrap over that, and you'll have the best result. So you might have to do that. You might not have to. It's really up to how the game feels about the model, I guess. So we're gonna go ahead and work on the female version. I might not even do the whole setup for the first person hand. I might. I don't know. We'll just see how far I get into it. So I'm gonna copy. I think just the sake for saving time and just going right through this, I'm gonna keep any commentary silent unless I need to talk about something or whatever. All right. No, we shouldn't need those now. Okay. So everything's all good. Just to check our models, make sure that they work properly. That's odd. Hmm. Won't worry about it. Let's just check our other model, see if it's working. Yep, that's working. Just make sure this one is working too. Okay. This preview gets annoying. Or previewer. There we go. Alright, that's good. Glad that's working. Alright. Just delete those because they don't. Actually, I'll just bring those up. I'll check them just in case. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Yep, these are working. Or they should work. I'll try them in the game, why not? If they don't load. Actually, if they don't load in the CK, I don't know what I'm going to do with that then. Yeah, I'm confused on that, so I won't worry about it. There we go. Go ahead and launch the CK. And we'll go ahead and start adding our armors, so we're making our armors and stuff. So, if you never used a CK before, we're going to load the Fallout ESM and set it as active file. That'll load up all of the Fallout 4 assets and stuff like that. I've already got an ESP that I can use, so I'm going to use that instead as well. Load that up and add it to my list when I find it. Set that as active file. And I'm going to load it up. It's going to take a little bit. It's got to load all the assets and all that stuff. Alright, there we go. Now we got our all of our stuff loaded up. We can start making our armor. So the first thing we're going to do is go into items, armor, and then we'll have a bunch of examples we can go by. But we're going to go ahead and make a new. You can put two, you can number yours next to yours, just find yours at the top. Mine are always zeros, so I can always find them. So I'm going to put an underscore, like Dave and me, armor 1 or something. And for name, we'll just give it hair uniform. We also need to make sure for race, we're going to make it human race. Okay. So now that we got that, we need to set our biped objects. We're going to make it body, and then I'm going to make it U, torso, L, R, legs, and arms, and all that stuff. I don't really know what these are quite yet, so I need to look that up on them some more. I usually just do that, and they usually work. So I might try just body, but I don't know if that'll work. Okay, so I'll set it to 100. Oh, whoops. Pressed enter on that. So you can give your uniform a value, or you can set put down and pick up sounds. I don't know what any of these really do. You can just edit a bunch of stuff here. So you can change the world models. I think these are for the what is it? The object icon images and message icons and all that stuff. Add a description, keywords. I'm sure those have a function. I just don't know what they do. But we'll be working on the add-on index here of the model. So we'll need we can have it up or we can keep it down. I'm just gonna exit out of it. So let's see here. The next thing we need to do is go to armor add-ons, and we're gonna create a new. Yeah, okay, so that's what I was trying to get at. The object for the world of neatly folded clothing. Let's see here. 00, Dave and me. We'll just call it that. So we need to set the same settings we gave our other model. We also need to add additional races as well. So we'll have ghoul race and yeah, Gen 1 and Gen 2 race. Okay, so now that's done. We can start adding our models in. So we got the male biped model and the female biped model. We also can select the first person, but ours isn't working, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to go ahead and add it. The male. And then once it loads up, it'll load up in our window here so we can preview it, see if it works. I might try adding the first person as well. See if it loads up. Doubt it will, but yeah, it didn't load. Okay, now that those two are set, I think we can set the footstep sound. I don't know if it actually works. I just set it to default set. I think that's everything. I don't know what skin texture does or skin texture swap list, so that's beyond me. That's everything. All right, now we need to go back to our armor and add it to the models list. And there we go. Press OK. Save. I can save mine, but it'll ask you to save as yours, and you can save the ESP. Mine's World War II Armor Pack, because that's what I'm working on. And stuff like that. And then you can use your favorite mod launcher or whatever and select the ESP and load up your game. And that is what I'm going to do to test this out. So go ahead and switch my view here real quick. It'll only take me a minute to load, hopefully. I don't know where you live, where you notice peasants, and I doubt they have better gear. Africa doesn't have anything on this. This is supercomputer to Africa. That's a plus for me. That is a plus. So now we need to just add our uniform in. So I'll go ahead and do all that, find where it's at. Ah, my favorite. I don't know what causes that issue. I really don't. First person model works fine though. That's good. I guess I'll just have to go back in and figure it out, but that's kind of just the gist of everything. I don't know. Fallout 4 is weird and doesn't work all the time. It's either I'm doing something wrong, the process is wrong. I don't know. I'm doing everything as intended, or as the tutorial tells me to. It doesn't go into, I guess, much detail on what you can do and what you can't. Because there are things in 3ds Max that can easily ruin whatever's going on in there, like smoothing groups. Either smoothing groups don't work very well, or like auto smoothing groups, or if it's the X-form, the reset X-form stuff, or what. I don't know what it is. I have to go back and try and fix it and some of that, but it's just trial and error. That's all it really is. Going back, checking it and some of that. You know, try and try new things and see what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong, so I mean, you can use this information. That's up to you. That doesn't always work all the time. There's also there's another method you can do it, and it works a bit more effectively. This one's kind of hit and miss at times. Still trying to figure it out myself. So I think it's the Outfit Studio way, but it's not always the best. It's kind of does the same thing that 3ds Max does, but it doesn't do it as good. All right, that's it for now. I'll probably try it again if it gets try this again, depending if I get copyright striked again and that bans the music in other countries. So hopefully that doesn't come to that, but I'll probably make another one when I know more into Fallout stuff. This is just mainly just to do rigging and uh, the soft selection kind of stuff. Um, I'm not very Fallout 4 savvy yet, so I just gotta get continue working on it and see, again, what works and what doesn't. Hopefully this helps. See you guys later.